I haven't watched Kung Fu Panda 4 as of recording this section. I put off watching it for a whole year for this video because I needed to leave all personal bias behind and make an appropriate analysis of this film. Kung Fu Panda is and probably will be my favorite movie trilogy of all time. The first is great, the second is phenomenal, and the third was good. So with the backlash and critiques for received by critics, fans, and other content creators, I wanted to wait. It's because Kung Fu Panda is so special to me that I needed a large chunk of time to detach my personal feelings, to be more objective and give my opinions of improvements or faults found with the film. With all of this being said, I want to give you all my best analysis of Kung Fu Panda 4 a whole year later. The opening for this film attempts to create a mystery that might have been pretty good had it not been for the first trailer. Tai Lung's return being spoiled by promotional material makes his first appearance a bit moot for the audience before the word go. This also creates an immediate problem to deal with. How do you balance returning villain screen time with a chameleon screen time? Unfortunately, this question wouldn't have a very good answer, leaving nothing much to talk about for the rest of the opening act except the absence of the Furious Five, who were written out of the movie completely. This led to everything being much emptier without them, and the jokes or gags that are obviously there to replace them don't make up for their absence. This isn't to say Po couldn't carry a film by himself, he just works best when bouncing off others, which is where Zhen comes in and introduces us to the main setting of Juniper City. Juniper City set pieces look good and action scenes are fluid, but when you compare what Gongmen City had to offer in movie 2, there's no real comparison. Scaling a falling tower which puts a timer on everyone's escape, leading to the cramped, uncomfortable feel the jail lends to Tigress and Po's conversation, moving to the heated and intense backdrop the factory offers, and the full shot of Gongmen City as its ruler unleashes his fleet on the rest of China by water dwarfs anything Juniper City has to offer. Each location flows with the rhythm or feel of their scenes, building up to the next moment, whereas Juniper City feels like it lacks identity and at times could be replaced with a random forest without changing much of anything. The characters are given time to exist in different environments, creating fun fight scenes, but Juniper's feels relatively lifeless, with a fast pace from place to place without much identity for each one, from the streets to the underground to the chameleon's palace. Compare this to Gongmen City's streets, to the prison, to the tower, back to the prison, to the factory, and finally to the waters of Gongmen City. Each time there's a piece of the environment given shine and identity. What the characters did with the tower could not be done in the prison or the waterfront. It gives significance to the environments and creates a solid pacing gauge for the film. Kung Fu Panda 4 doesn't have that strong pace to it because it's more concerned with getting to the next story beat. Things are snappy to the point without staying in one place for too long, when the story desperately needs more scenes to make the audience care about the characters and the stakes. It leaves many moments feeling shallow or undercooked, which is especially true in the case of Zhen. As a secondary main character of the film, she's introduced as a thief trying to steal artifacts and Po's staff to give to the chameleon, but she doesn't even know that Po, the only panda in the Valley of Peace for X amount of years, is the Dragon Warrior. It wouldn't be unreasonable to assume that Po is the most recognizable kung fu master of the modern day in all of China after defeating Shen, a national threat. Furthermore, getting behind the idea of the Dragon Warrior needing a successor doesn't feel that important because Po is probably going to be the strongest in the franchise regardless. Anyone who comes after him as the Dragon Warrior should meet or exceed his legacy. Zhen just does not demonstrate that level of potential unless we count her draw with Po on the walkway to the chameleon's fortress. Getting back on track, Zhen represents change or a passing of the torch, with her history meant to reflect Po becoming the Dragon Warrior. She's a thief, street rat, and con artist. Everything a kung fu master isn't supposed to be, just like Po. The issue is that Zhen isn't the nucleus of the film because at the end of the day, this is Po's story. The placement of Zhen's backstory makes this evident as it's given to us in the latter half of the story to fill out her meeting with the chameleon, but it's a small snapshot of time. Again, the issue is the focus isn't on her, making this development weak on delivery. For comparison, Po's story being an untalented loser in the first film is demonstrated on a multitude of occasions. The training scenes and the time in the dining hall paint the picture that while he is untalented, he's growing to befriend his idols and is not just a loser meant for jokes. These are serious attempts to make him more than just a fanboy. Behind all the comedy, there's a person with serious self-image and doubt issues pushing the message of the film. You are stronger than you think, you just have to believe in the strength within. Zhen's story is much of the same to a lesser degree. While Po gets out from behind the loser label, it comes with a realization about himself, deep connections, and relationships that will last him his whole life. Zhen walks out of this film in a similar way. It just doesn't hit the same because for the third time, she isn't the focus and doesn't have enough time for this stuff to be filled out in her character. She feels like a character thrown together for Poe to have a companion because he and the Five have already had a fight in a city setting for movie 2, I guess. The Five were fleshed out from the beginning to the end of the first film with effective moments not needing Poe to be there to work. Chasing after Tai Lung is their response to the Chosen One being incapable of fighting him and make for one of, if not the most recognizable moments in the franchise. Contrast this with Zhen's development and big moments hinging on Poe's involvement or existence in the story. No self-actualization like the Dragon Scroll reveal at any moment in this film. She's not an autonomous character, she's led by the hands of the chameleon and Poe without truly making any decisions for herself. The chameleon says it best, after all she's given Zhen, she's going to betray her for Poe. If Zhen had been more conflicted about the evil things the chameleon had done and we were shown these morally wrong or questionable actions, then Zhen would be left at a crossroads. Choose to do the hard right thing or be comfortable with doing the easy wrong thing. This could have melded well with the rules of the streets that's given sparse exposure throughout the film. Does Zhen continue with these values or make more of a try at the other values Poe is trying to instill in her? This would give a backbone and depth to the character outside of her quips that permeate the movie. If Zhen was written to be a more surface level than deep character, that's fine. Not every single character needs to be a super deep or complex one. However, the writing of basic issues like self-esteem, self-discovery, and trauma have had a high level of care given to them for multiple characters across the trilogy that just isn't present in Zhen. Skipping across the surface of her issues are what fill up most of her screen time, which is a similar level of care taken to her teacher, the chameleon. The chameleon is a victim of zero tension and a lack of demonstration. Beginning with her history, it's stated that she was too small and lowly to be worthy of becoming a Kung Fu master. She's supposed to serve as the opposite of one of Kung Fu Panda's main ideas. Anyone can master Kung Fu, so your physique doesn't matter. While this has been a focal point of criticism regarding the chameleon's character, the point of it was that not everyone can be chosen by destiny or move past what others tell or label them as. Whereas Zhen is supposed to mirror Poe, the chameleon is supposed to be his opposite, a failure who lets others determine her life's course. The concept of her copying different masters' appearance and physical attributes to evoke fear into China's population and going on to steal their powers is such a perfect way to flip Poe's character in the first movie. Denied in her youth, she turns to sorcery to become what she couldn't be. It's the perfect framework for a fourth film antagonist. The first film saw an antagonist in Tai Lung who was the perfect image of the Dragon Warrior by all metrics, a direct contrast to Poe. Next was Shen, who displaced and burned Poe's home to the ground, changing his life forever and almost destroying the art form Poe just mastered. Lastly, Kai almost stripped Poe of everything he thought he'd lost forever. The chameleon is the one who puts up an ugly mirror to Poe, showing him that he could have been like her. Despite this idea being great when trying to interpret or analyze it, the movie never focuses on drilling these ideas home as an extension of the chameleon. There's a natural connecting thread when assessing Tai Lung to Shen and Shen to Kai, but not Kai to the chameleon. Tai Lung is from Shifu's past, Shen is from Poe's past, and Kai is from Uguay's past. The chameleon is not connected to this thread, nor is she this imposing threat either. In the first act, she just pushes someone down the stairs. There's no tension or presence in that. It's delivered by jokes and eliminates any danger she would have posed. She's described as the greatest threat Poe's ever faced, but if she took the skills of every person Poe's ever fought, she would just lose by default. Poe has beaten every single main antagonist in a one-on-one fight, with Kai being the exception, but with the staff he probably beats Kai by himself. The chameleon is such a non-threat that when she combines into this chimera dragon thing, she just gets beaten in like a minute and Poe plays like he's beat just to give Zhen a moment to shine. In the end, she's a weak villain without much of a jump off point. A cool idea with different powers, but not a strong enough foundation to make her better than early ideas being passed around at the creative team's table. The rest of this film is honestly not the best either. As mentioned before, Juniper City is a forgettable, less alive Gongmin City. The side characters in this movie are cleared by anything that the trilogy offers. They are flat, unlike the Five, Council, or Panda Village residents, who are all filled with personality and distinct from one another. The underground criminals are one-dimensional at best and annoying at worst. Poe's dads have no place in the story whatsoever. Their B-plot doesn't matter at all to the overarching story, so switching to them is strictly a pace killer. To pour salt on the wound, the Five are nowhere to be found until the credits. This makes the movie feel like it was rushed to all hell, and DreamWorks couldn't get or didn't want to give the money for the voice actors to return. Poe and Shifu feel like somewhat died versions of themselves. Poe is a lot more childish and foolish during parts of the film, like when he has multiple voices talking to him as if he's never focused in his life. Shifu also just outright dismisses Zhen when he managed to train Poe, who's much more dysfunctional than Zhen by a long shot. It all just reads like movies 2 and 3 were skipped, and the first movie is all the writers watched before making 4. Still, there are some nice little moments in the subtext of a few scenes. The peach tree seed Shifu planted during his argument with Oogway finally sprouts, demonstrating a sign of change. Zhen's earpiece, signifying her allegiance to the chameleon that she wore throughout the movie, is removed after she takes on being the next dragon warrior. Small stuff like this pushes for a satisfying story in that details do matter, but it's all hardly satisfying when the material surrounding these little payoffs are either mediocre at best or bad at worst. Regardless of my feelings for Kung Fu Panda, I'm a firm believer that things must come to an end and that sometimes every story needs to end so new stories can be written. A part of my heart wanted Kung Fu Panda 4 for a long time because I wanted more of this world and its characters, but my mind knew that Poe's story should end before it fell into mediocrity or became bad, and I received both of them in one go. If there is a Kung Fu Panda 5, I hope that there is more care given to its characters, setting, and story than this. With that being said, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Please stay safe out there and have yourselves a damn good one. I'll see you all next time.